Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glenn Sutherland.
Welcome to a new episode of Canadian Investing in the U.S. with Glenn Sutherland. This week, my repeat guest is Bryce Kaminsky. Bryce, let's start off by giving everybody a bit of a background, a little bit of who you are.
I started real estate back in 2015 with Stefan Arnio. Got his trusty book. If you haven't read it, this is a key book for, I think, anyone who's trying to figure out how to put money and people and deals together, because that's real estate investing 101. So
for people who are listening to this, most people listen. What book was that?
Most people listen to it. So we'll do it like where the eyes closed. It's Money People Deal by Stefan Arnio. You're going to be hard pressed to find this book in its print because the company's kind of dissolved, but the audiobook still exists, and he did the recording himself, so you get to listen to him.
I have that same book, but mine looks different. I think mine's black.
You've got the $5 million book. We changed the cover a couple times to try to change the avatar that would buy it, but at the end of the day, it's Money People Deal. That's the thing, and that's the business. So great book. Lots of mindset in there for people getting started. So I always recommend that if you're looking to get started, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Money People Deal, you put those two together, you're going to have a successful career.
Awesome. Love it. All right. So Bryce, we were chit-chatting before this, and we were going to talk a little bit about economy, all this stuff that's happening right now. Why don't you just get started, and I'll start cutting you off and asking you questions.
Yeah. Because I can talk at length as a coach myself. You put me on, I could talk until you tell me to stop. So I think the big thing that is happening, we saw the opposite. We saw a contracted economy for probably 4 good solid years. We've seen a tightened, especially in the last 2 years, with lending tightened, with people's feelings about investing tightening. Now, in the United States, it's been a little bit different, but I'm sure they're feeling the same things where lending is tight. You know, like if you're in the flipping business and you're trying to sell to a new owner, they have to have confidence that they're going to be able to afford that mortgage. And when the economy is not good, when gas is up, when food is up, when just the cost of the loan is up, where interest rates are up, people are not sure they can afford that mortgage. And that, if you're buying and holding, cool. Like, it's been really good, I think, I would say, as rents increase, but rents are increasing because people can't scrape together down payments. So they're just perpetual renters. Yeah. And I think that class of people, unfortunately, is growing. I'm not entirely sure that like owning a house is a great investment for yourself, but owning them and renting them out has been a great investment, especially in the United States. People are, like, I know Canadians right now are flocking to the United States for better product, better weather, better pricing. You know, like you look at a bunch of these cash flow cities, and you can't even buy a door in Canada for 35 grand. Like, we had one go yesterday for 35,000, but it was a wreck. So 35,000 in Cleveland can buy much more than a wreck. It's probably, you know, a $10,000 or $20,000 away from being a $90,000 house with a $1,100 or $1,200 rent. And that's what's making sense too. And I think for Canadians thinking about investing in the United States, the lending products on investments is much more conducive to business than here in Canada. In Canada, you know, we go to the bank that holds all of our buy and hold mortgages. We say, can we get a line of credit? They're like, yeah, if you fill out 30 forms and pretty much reapply to get a mortgage. But with the types of lending products in the United States, you just kind of look at the house and you say, yeah, we'll lend on that. You're going to fix it up, rent it. Okay, we'll lend on that. And so I think what's going to be huge for both Canadians and Americans is we're seeing a change of the guard. We're seeing Trump going into office. As much as the turmoil and things, like, change is not status quo. So there's going to be some like growing pains. But I think if we saw what we saw last time and we see a second term where he can't get reelected, unless things
Yeah.
change. He can't
Right.
get reelected. And when you're not thinking about second term policy, um, you can do a lot of things. And what's interesting too is he lost in the first election when he came back around for reelection, right?
Yeah.
They didn't win. Let's say that they didn't win, but his policies and his tax breaks are all coming up for renewal at the end of what would have been his second term. So he actually gets to take something from what would have been an 8-year term, and he actually gets to extend his policies for 12 years. So this might be a kind of, because we haven't had a non-consecutive president for a century, I think, 1800s or something.
Yeah.
So the economic policy and the speed at which the implementation, because like all these tariffs, all these tax breaks are all coming up for renewal under his beginning of the next person's term, because I guess he said it so that it would outlive him. And
Yeah.
now he gets to pick up the ball right where he left it and double in on that. And you can see that especially, the first time it was like fighting uphill for the Republican Party and what they were trying to do with the economy. But now we've got, and I'm sure you're hearing it from your American counterparts, that people are getting behind it. After the last 4 years, people are a little bit tired. The pendulum swings. I always say that, the pendulum swings, and now it's going to swing really heavy. And I think it's going to be really, really good for the American economy, and hopefully, with the changing of which looks like it's inevitably coming down the pipe here, if you've followed the news recently. We are going to have a changed economy here in Canada too. So we're going to have a conservative government likely coming up, and we've got a Republican, which is typically considered the conservative party in the United States. And so I think that in tandem, we're going to have a lot of economic growth and prosperity in North America. If we can hold on, it looks like it's going to be like a wild horse. Can we hold on for the 4 years and really put down some serious groundwork? Because then we're going to get a Canadian economy, the Conservatives, and with our government, we can just, they can stay in power for technically 20 years, 30 years, however long the prime minister continues, right? We don't have like a end of our term. So, we're already seeing it in Winnipeg. We're already seeing numbers of consumer faith. And I think that's the big thing. Like, people are always doing comps and they're doing this, but there's always an ounce of speculation in real estate, right? And with the speculation is usually mixed in together with how we feel about the future. Like we were talking before, the mortgage rates and can I afford the future? And people are saying, I believe things are going to change and I will be able to afford more future, whatever that looks like for them, right? So,
To cut you off there for a second, you just mentioned consumer faith. What does consumer faith mean to you? Is it like that people are starting to buy?
well, they're starting to feel like, because Canadians are terribly indebted, right? We're like a 1.13 index or something like that against actual earnings. So someone they'll earn 60 and they'll spend 70 and they'll carry a credit card and they'll balance that credit card. So we've got a lot of consumer debt.
Okay.
But that had been pulling back. Lending's pulling back. The credit card companies saying no extensions. And so that's forced people in the last few years to reevaluate their spending. And now they're looking at it. It feels like they're looking at it going, we can probably bet on the future. And that's really what it is. And it kind of always is that way, especially with finances and the economy. We're betting on something we can't see, but we're like, okay, the policies look like it's going to be in good faith. So more spending, but also the challenge in Canada, I don't know what you're seeing on the lending side in the United States, is that they are quick to close it down and slow to bring it back around,
Yeah, exact same.
because our rates are connected to those Canadian bond yields. And people think, oh, well, they're going to lower the rate and that's going to change the interest rate. And it's like, yeah, but not really, because people still aren't buying Canada bonds, which means they're not buying into Canada, which means they're not like Canada's stock is going down. We're seeing our dollars at what, under 60 cents or something, or in and around 60 cents today.
It's getting
So
expensive to buy US. Hello, everybody. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I just wanted to let you know that I've created a new coaching program. I believe the new coaching program has way more value than any of the programs that have even existed in the past. What we've done is pre-recorded all the lessons so that you can work through it at your own pace, which is pretty cool. And then we're going to meet up on a regular basis to answer the questions, do deal analysis, and actually spend our time together working on things instead of spending our time learning things. I think this will make a seamless transition to buying in the United States and will help you solve a lot of your problems. If this is of interest to you, go to glensutherland.com/coaching. I hope to help you guys invest in the United States, and I hope we provide as much value as possible. Back to the podcast. I have more free content. So if you're interested, I created a PDF guide and a video to go along with the PDF guide to complement it. And what the guide is all about is the 5 most common mistakes that Canadians make when investing in the United States. So if you're interested in this free guide, go to CanadianInvestingInTheUSA.com/mistakes. And let's go back to the podcast. And it's free.
yeah, I mean, to exit your money out into the US, when I was working on both sides of the fence, right? Working in the United States and then working in Canada, and, having, do the project and get paid out on something in the United States, you'd say, okay, I've got $2,000. As an American in the United States, they're like, $2,000 goes a long way. You go to the rallies and you can get a meal for like less than $5.
Yeah.
But when you bring that $1,000 back to Canada, even though you've parked your money in the States and maybe it was a little painful and a little expensive to invest in the United States at the beginning, when that rent payment hits and your cash flow is like, oh, it's only $300, $300 at 0.14 comes back. And yeah, there's going to be some like cross-border taxation you have to deal with and all that. But I really love the inflation of the stronger economy importing assets from the United States. And it's, I was having a conversation even about Bitcoin, for instance, is a store of value. The United States dollar is a store of value. And so if you've got $10,000 in your Canadian bank account last week, yes, you still have 10,000 Canadian tokens to play in Canada. But if you take those tokens over the border, you're going to find out kind of how worthless your 80K salary is at your job, that you need to do something different. You need to start getting the max lending products you can. And unfortunately, I love Canada, but we need to be exporting into assets that are appreciating. Yes, we're getting some like stagnant appreciation in Canada, but it's nothing like people look at appreciation in a box. But with our access, especially with all the people from Ontario that are listening along, there's very limited opportunities in Ontario, and you're like 3 hours, 4 hours. We drive 4 hours in Manitoba to still be in the middle of nowhere. So take advantage of the fact that you are so terribly close to valuable appreciating, economic appreciating assets, because you go down there, put your money into something in like Cleveland or Buffalo or any of those, border cities, and you will be rewarded as that America ship kind of takes off. We can't really count on that happening here in Canada. The only thing we're dealing with as far as like buying and selling in Canada is just a supply issue. People are like, why are prices running through? Why are we getting 15 offers on this piece of junk on this piece of junk street? And it's because it's the only piece of junk you can buy. It's like the pandemic with toilet paper. It's like all the good stuff's gone and they're charging double for the one ply. And it's like, that's what you get. That's what you can buy. That's what you have to do if you want to buy a house in Canada. Or like a lot of people, they're just renting.
Yeah. Wow. So with this January 20th, I believe is when Trump goes in here.
Mhm.
So what's your feeling on this? Is this is good for the US? Is it good for Canada?
I think it's I think it's good for the world. I think it's a global change because we have all these other national powers. You look at Europe, you look at, some of the emerging African economies, you look at some of these Asian countries and their development as they try to, you look at all of these economies around the world and what do they want? They literally just want to make their country like America. They want all the pleasures and all the milk and honey that comes from the capitalist system, but they're framed in these democratic monarchies. We've got Canada to some degree is a democratic monarchy. Like it's not truly a capitalist country. There's a lot of social net programs and stuff like that. So as much as they want to be like America, unless they fundamentally change the way that their government is structured, the way that they change their taxation, the way that they allow people to dream and and get what they want. That's the beauty of America and investing in the United States is that American dream is still available. It's still for sale and very much for sale as people, like look at it. Their answer this morning from the Canadian economy was, we're going to give you a loan from the CMHC to build an income suite in your basement. That's their answer to housing.
Yeah.
Like not build more housing, not cut the red tape, not lower the loans, not capitalist movements. They're just like, how about you just have a permanent renter in your basement and that's how we're going to solve the housing crisis. We're going to make your house not a house anymore. We're going to turn all houses into apartments. And if people wanted apartments, they would live in apartments. So like these policy decisions, like last spring, they said we're going to have fourplex developments across Canada, right? We all saw the news
Yep.
release.
Yep.
It's very, very nice. Canada flags in the background. Still not a thing here in Winnipeg. Still has to be like they can talk all they want at the top, but they can't police these municipalities and these cities to actually cut the tape and allow us to do these things. If we could do those things, then we wouldn't need secondary suite loans from the CMHC. We don't need that loan. We need you to get out of the way so that we can get back to what America's so great at, which is just building something, cutting the red tape, fast tracking permits, opening stuff up. Whereas Canada's like, okay, let's slow it down. Let's slow it down, to the point where we've got, and this is one of the hardest parts about development in Winnipeg is if you're doing a permit project, you're
Yeah.
going to see a different inspector every time you ask for an inspection. So the last guy comes in and says that the last guy was wrong and you have to do this. And then the next guy comes in and says the same thing. The last guy was wrong. You have to do this. So the constant bureaucracy of the
Yeah.
on like the clause into the capitalism that should be there to solve these real problems is just more press releases and like we're fixing housing. No, you're not. They're not. It's not happening. It's worse. And I had to adjust. So every month, just for example of supply and demand, and we can go back to America a little bit. I had to adjust. Usually I look at my absorption rate. If you're an investor, look at all sales in your city by zone and find out which ones are being absorbed at about 70% or greater and about 20 days to sell. Those are good numbers. If you can sell a house 70% of the time in less than 20 days, that's a good area
Yep.
historically.
Yep. No, I agree.
If I did that with the current market numbers I got for November, every single area in the city would be a good investment. So I had to raise the bar now to make the list, to make the cut, just so I had to just make sense of it. I had to change it to 80% or better and 13 days or less to sell. So that's how little supply there is against the demand, absorbed like crazy, bidding wars, selling within 10 or 12 days. And most of that's offer date stuff where they list on a Monday and sell next Monday, and that's 7 days. So it's an inflated 13 days. It could be that it's 7 days to sell if it was true. So
Yeah.
if they don't solve the core problem of there's not enough houses, the prices are going to continue to go up. And that's great for investors who are buying and renting and holding, but it doesn't create economy. You have to build, you have to create new things, you have to take loans from the bank and create new value. And until Canada gets out of its way, that's why I'm so excited about what's happening with the United States, because you look at Trump's vision of the future, and he's always talking about, let's do it right now. Now is the time. Let's cut the red tape. Let's get these things out of the way. Let's get these projects off the ground. Things like let's not sell the pieces of the border wall before I come into power. Let's keep those. Like, it can't be all garbage, but if they're selling it all like it's garbage, it's just another cost to the bottom line for Americans. So I don't think we need any more costs. We just need to create new loans. We need to create new value, and we need to put people back to work. And until Canada gets on board with that, which, the Liberals aren't really the party of get back to work. They're not the party. They're more of the party that's like, oh, you're out of work. Here's a handout
We'll
of
make sure
some
that you're going to
sort.
be okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
make sure that you can survive and that your taxes are collected and that you buy more stuff at Walmart, because that's all where you can shop now, because you don't have money to go to Safeway, because Safeway is, you know, 13% more expensive. Yeah, granted, they still have stuff on the shelves when you need it, but you're going to pay a premium. And most people, especially living in a city like Winnipeg, where we're not Ontario, we're not Alberta, we're not BC, we're just working class people. People make about 50K a year or $30,000 American a year.
Yeah.
So it's challenging, and I think with what you're seeing with the economy in the United States changing, you're going to have that bleed over effect globally. And the other thing is that Trump is not really pro conflict. Conflict is good for the military machine to build more weapons to blow them up. Okay, cool. But couldn't we do something else with that? Like Elon Musk is a perfect example of investing billions and billions and billions, endless amounts of money
Yeah.
to not to build death machines and war machines, but maybe, I mean, look at the robots and the rockets, like easily. And I say that all the time, with anything amazing like a nuclear power can be, manipulated into a weapon, right? So I think it's really the mindset that there's a future, that capitalism is being embraced once again in the United States. People want to go back to work. They want to make a living. They want to make stuff in America, which is going to be huge for these smaller towns. Like if you're investing and you're looking at this thing, like start doing your research about future factories, future assembly plants and things like that, where these depressed houses are just going to be sitting around at 10 grand, 15 grand. And then suddenly they announce, oh, we're going to be putting in a new furniture factory, and boom, all those houses are 50K again, like they were before the factory left. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity for housing in the United States that is kind of derelict housing. Look at Detroit, what happened when they pulled all the plants. It just,
Yeah.
no jobs, no need for housing. And you saw it in Cleveland too with the exodus. You saw it all in the Rust Belt. And he's right. He say, look, you build it in America, we're going to give you the cuts. You build it just over the border in Mexico and you try to ship your Toyota in here. Yeah, you can. Certainly. It's going to be taxed. It's going to be tariffed, because we have more than enough able-bodied Americans and able-bodied Canadians to create more than the things that we need. And we've just been a little bit lazy about it. We want the milk and honey, but we don't want to milk the cow. We don't want to go and deal with the beehive. But America was founded on milking the cow and going for the honey, because there was nothing really here. They had to get it from the dirt. And when they came back from World War II and they got it out of the dirt again, and we've had this kind of like socialist creep on the foundation of America. And I don't think socialism is conducive within a republic of states and people and different opinions. People are always like religion in the States. If you haven't been in Texas on a Sunday, you don't understand religion in the United States because they will shut down the highway to let the church parking lot out.
Really?
They're not going to do that in Canada. I remember I was driving with Stefan. We were down in Dallas and we're doing some, checking houses on a Sunday. And we're like, state troopers got his car clear across the highway. And what's going on? They're letting the church out. It's Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. So there's beliefs, and that's what makes America America. And this constant trying to Europeanize America is not ever going to work. They tried it with the tea. They tried it with the British on the East Coast. They've been trying to Europeanize America since America has been founded, but they created a structure to prevent that from happening. They created with the way that the political system is put together to prevent a parliament of sorts. Canada on some level is a threat to American democracy on a level because it's the closest Europeanized parliament that you can deal with. You don't look at the Mexico and say, "Oh, that's very European." No,
No.
it's its own thing. And um, when you look at Canada, and it's kind of like people left Canada and Vietnam. Why? Because they didn't like the policies that America was going back to war. That's what America does. Unfortunately and fortunately for everyone who doesn't have to go, that's what America exports. It exports punishment for disruptors, and to some degree, it's the bigger stick economy keeps everyone in play. When you look at the last 4 years of what's happened globally and politically on like the Middle East and with the Ukraine thing, and it's just like I can't help but wonder that when you have the Democrats going there and being in power, they're not afraid of that political party. They're not afraid that he's going to do something rash. And if he does, it's going to be status quo stuff, like giving the people fighting your enemy weapons and staying out of it. Very American, very democratically American. We don't want a war, but we'll help you fight one. And here's all the things to go and kill each other. And that's that's short-sighted. That's the only thing that's feeding is the American like war machine complex of building more bombs and building more weapons and blowing them up and building more. And it's just like that's not what Trump's about. It's not what he's shown that he's about. He's time and time again in interview after interview, it's never been what he's about. And that that mentality exported with a strong opinionated leader, love it or hate it, America is the leader of the world. There's not another power. Russia can claim to be a superpower, but when you look at their lifestyle and what they have and the have-nots, they're not there yet. And China's not there yet. And the South Korea is not really there yet. They're still just imitating America in the 90s, America in 2000. You look at South Korea, that's America in 2005. So they're all just copying what America has laid out because they all agree that that's ideally all the people in these countries. Yeah, there's like we love China and we love being Chinese and whatever, but they want the fundamental American dream. And you can even take American, they just want the human dream of prosperity, family, you know, being able to afford something and working hard to get it. And that is coming. And that's going to be huge for real estate because the number one thing that keeps people from buying real estate is whether they feel like they can afford it or not. And they feel like they can afford it. And I feel like, and you can feel it in the States if you've been down there since the election. A lot of my American friends are saying they're feeling it. They're feeling the change of the temperature.
I like it.
And yeah, I think that that's going to be huge globally. As long as we can, put some of these wars out of the side. I mean, maybe they keep going, maybe they don't, but
Yeah. I don't know. That's a lot of food to chew on there.
well,
Anyway,
it's just like here's to make it really simple for people listening. If you're investing in Canada, it's gonna be hot. So you're going to pay more for your product. Don't be afraid to pay more for your investments this year. You will pay more. You will pay in offer dates. You're going to pay 30, 40, 50K more than what you thought you were going to pay. But you're going to acquire the asset. And then this hyper appreciation because the economy is going to be on a tear. It's going to carry that investment. It's going to wipe out that overpay if you're in Canada. Don't worry about it. It'll sort itself out. And on the flipping side, if you pay a little bit more, from what I'm seeing, and I'm not like I can't see the future, but what I can see is the current numbers and the trends over the last 10 years. And if you think you're going to get, say, 200 or 500K for your flip, you can probably put another 10 cents on there and say you're going to go for 220 or 550. And that's going to help you make those buying decisions here in January and February or March even when you're grabbing that spring product and bringing it to market in, April, May, June. Now, as Canadians looking into invest in America, that's going to be huge. If you can go and put 10,000 and get the rest of the loan paid and go to the United States with that, that's going to be huge because that's going to, take off with your investment. So whatever you're investing in the next 12 months, there's the quote was everyone's a genius in an up market.
yeah.
And so we're looking at a very strong upswing up market. So go be a genius, go and be a genius and almost not really be able to make mistakes because the appreciation and the economy is going to close those mistakes. Oh, you over renovated? That's fine. The next people love it. They're going to overpay. And that's maybe not overpay. That's just what things are going to be worth as we move into the next thing. So when I started with Stefanarnio, people say, okay, he was a little wild of a character to be in. Why do you put up with that? And I said, find me a faster sports car in Canada. I'll ride with them because this is the fastest growing, it was the fastest growing real estate training company. We're, getting students after students, million, 2 million. We're setting benchmarks to be one of the biggest coaching companies and real estate here in Winnipeg. And people be like, well, why are you part of that? And for the same reason why you should invest in real estate right now, find me a faster sports car for your money. Find me something that's going to appreciate with index against the economy better than real estate. You will not find it. Yeah, put some money into like S&P and maybe you catch an Nvidia wave and you make some money and everyone's clapping for you. That's rare. But what isn't rare is the old story of I saved some money, I went to the bank, I bought a house, it's worth more than it was yesterday. And you don't have to be a genius, you don't have to be a day trader. You just have to take action, get in the car because it's about to take off. And if you wait this time, we've been having this conversation about, oh, wait, I'm going to wait till the rates are down. I'm going to wait till the rates are down. And we've been saying, if you wait and you miss the boat, you're not going to be able to catch it this time. This time it's going to take off and you're going to be like, man, I could have paid $50,000 less for that house last year.
Yeah.
But not anymore because you were waiting for the car to be started. You were waiting for the car to be moving to get in. Get in that thing, bet on the real estate coming up, and you're gonna be rewarded because it's one of the only assets that paces the inflation index. As the cost of things go up, the cost of houses go up. As cost of things goes up, your stocks don't necessarily follow suit. So with the true value of the index in housing, both here in Canada and the United States, if you have a large amount of money in Canada and you're in Ontario, like I was saying, chat with Glenn, figure out his systems. He can navigate you into the United States so you can start exporting some of that capital, which you can't really do much with there in Ontario. And again, you're right across the pond, literally one bridge through Windsor.
Yep. Yeah, you're in Detroit.
And now you're in the United States. Whereas for me as a Winnipegger, I got to drive like 10 hours to get anywhere substantial, Minneapolis or something.
Right.
And then even south of here, the real estate laws in North Dakota are kind of cooked. So I'm not interested. But not in these eastern states. Like, let's go. Get that money, take that HELOC, liquidate that crappy rental that you have in Ontario for $1 million that you're getting $3,000 a month sometimes, and maybe he hasn't paid in 9 months. Like, come on. Get your money, call Glenn. He'll help you get set up. He'll help you navigate the process because there is a process, guys. There's a process to, setting it up long term so that you don't get into these weird tax situations. But export the money, buy 5, buy 10, diversify that one holding in Ontario. Let some homeowner buy the house and own it finally and get your money back. Put it in the United States in like 10 different spots and watch that thing, 200x your capital over 4 or 5 years. So
yeah, those are some good tips.
Thing.
Bryce, I know you got to run and go see a house.
I'm going to look at a piece of junk here in Winnipeg.
So Bryce, before you go, people wanted to get a hold of you. Where do they track you down?
The easiest thing's my Instagram at Bryce Kaminsky, BryceKaminsky. You can find all my training materials. I help people with the human nature side of this thing, dealing with sellers. There's a lot of training on numbers and ARVs and, those sorts of fundamentals.
Yep.
But what happens when the seller calls you? How are you going to handle that? How are you going to know what to say? And a script isn't the answer. You got to learn people. And real estate is the human nature business. People aren't selling things for discount because they have to. They're selling it because they need to. And we have to be able to navigate those conversations with care and empathy and really discovery. And so even if you're an American wholesaler or anything, you're dealing with sellers, contact me. I have modules and coaching to help you deal with the human nature side. This isn't a course on raising money or ARVs. No, this is about getting sellers to call you, having legitimate conversations about their concerns and their problems. Because it's not we buy houses, it's we buy problems. And you get the house if you can solve the problem. So find me on Instagram.
That's great. Thanks, Bryce, so much for coming on the show. I honestly love that analogy too. But thanks for coming on the show and get you back on again.
Always a pleasure, Glenn. Talk to you soon.
That was a nice video. Bye.